he realized something that was beyond his understanding, something he hadn't expected, but somehow had already been a part of his life before he noticed it. It was a sudden, inexplicable feeling, and yet unmistakable. He found himself attracted, not just physically, but at a depth he didn't know he was capable of feeling. When the words became more than just casual exchanges, he understood that this was not a fleeting crush. It was something much larger, something he couldn't shake off, no matter how hard he tried. But soon, the weight of reality hit him. He couldn't ignore what was right in front of him, what was at stake, a difference that seemed small, but that loomed larger as it unfolded before his eyes. It was an invisible chasm that, although no one could see, he felt with absurd intensity. The age difference, something so simple, yet it made him question everything. And worse, it made him question himself. Have you ever noticed when such a pure feeling crashes against the coldness of society? When what is true and unique in your heart is undermined by the mere appearance of things? He found himself reflecting on this all the time. How something so natural, something that just happened, became the center of such painful internal debate. His relationship with you grew, day by day. He knew he couldn't simply ignore how he felt. It wouldn't be fair to him or to you, but every time his eyes met yours and he saw the spark of trust in your gaze, he felt smaller, more insecure. As if the age difference was an invisible wall erected between them, and worse, it was a wall that only he seemed to see, while you, with the purity of someone who gives themselves wholeheartedly, appeared not to care about it. He wanted to surrender to that connection, but the weight of his own insecurities was heavier than any feeling. He wondered, what if, in the end, he was a mistake? What if his life, with all its baggage and experiences, stood in the way of what you could truly live? This consumed him. He wanted to be the one who made you happy, the one who stood by you in every moment. But the shadow of their age difference grew stronger with each glance, with each new encounter, and without realizing it, he began to doubt everything around him. Society would look on with suspicion. The outside comments would be harsh, relentless, and worse, he feared that one day you would start to notice the words others were saying, those sideways glances, the jokes masked as concern, everything that he saw alone, but that perhaps you hadn't noticed just yet. He wanted to protect what was growing between you, but how could he protect something he himself couldn't fully understand? How could he safeguard something that he felt he didn't deserve? Have you ever noticed how easy it is to question your feelings when society imposes standards? Have you seen how external pressure can undermine something that, at its core, should be acknowledged only by the two of you? But this internal battle was becoming stronger for him than any word spoken. Insecurity grew stronger each day. He looked at you with such affection and wondered if there really was space for him by your side. He wanted you to be happy, but could he truly be the source of that happiness? Would he be enough for you? Or, more importantly, would he be enough for what society expected of you both? Every conversation they had became harder for him. He tried to hide behind words, behind more closed-off gestures, but none of that could conceal what was bubbling inside. He could no longer lie to himself. He felt it, but fear took over. How could he move forward with something so strong when he feared it might be fleeting, something he might see through different eyes in the future? He knew reality could not be ignored. He knew that eventually the doubts would become visible to you as well. And he didn't want to hurt you. He didn't want you to see everything he saw. Every moment he thought about you, he also pondered what pushed him away from you. He wondered if, over time, he would become a burden in your life. Would you ever look at him and see, not the man he was, but someone obsolete, distant from what you could have in your life? He wanted to be the right person for you, but this age difference seemed to create a chasm he didn't know how to cross. How could he ask you to move forward with him when the very shadows of his thoughts prevented him from walking steadily? He tried to convince himself that what they felt could overcome all of this. But deep down, he knew he couldn't ignore reality. He saw the words in his mind, trying to erase what was going on there. This doesn't matter, he told himself. If he is being true, if he is being who he really is, then it shouldn't matter. Yet there was always a voice whispering in his mind, questioning, reminding, imposing limits, doubts, fears. But the age difference is not a simple matter. He knew that. And he didn't want to be naive. He didn't want you to be naive either. He knew that a love that starts burdened with uncertainties and so much weight on its shoulders would be hard to last. He feared that, in the end, the difference between you would be something that couldn't be overcome, that it would just create more pain, more frustration. But he also knew that what he felt for you couldn't be erased. Not like that. Not with a simple thought or the weight of other people's opinions. What he felt was real. It was as real as the fear that consumed him. He realized this. He saw it clearly. He knew that no matter how much the world tried to impose limits, no matter how much he tried to fight against it, what he felt for you had already crossed any borders he had built throughout his life. You had already invaded his heart, and now he was trapped in this feeling of love and fear. He loved you, and he knew that. And now, what would he do with that love? He took a deep breath, trying to gather courage, but the words seemed to slip away from his mind. How could he now be honest with you? How could he look into your eyes and talk about this internal struggle without seeming weak, without appearing too insecure? The idea of losing you, of watching what you had built together disintegrate because of something so fleeting yet so real, terrified him. He wanted to protect you from all of this, but how do you protect someone from a genuine feeling, from a truth that cannot be hidden? The truth is that he knew you wouldn't see the age difference in the same way. He understood that while time passed for him, marked by the experiences he'd lived, for you, the future was still a vast territory, without limitations. He feared that over time you would look at him not with the admiration you felt now, but with a gaze of regret, of questioning. How could he be enough for you? How could he believe that the love you felt was immune to the uncertainties that would arise with the passing days? Yet at the same time, he felt something deep in his chest, something that challenged all those doubts, something that told him what you shared was stronger than any outside opinion, stronger than time, than the judgment of others, than anything that could be said. He sensed that deep down, what you were building together was unique, something that couldn't be explained, only felt. And in that moment, he had a clear realization. He wasn't just dealing with an age difference, but with a difference in mindsets, in life stages. He was at a point in his life where things seemed to have stabilized, already defined in many ways. You, on the other hand, were just beginning to discover the world, starting to explore who you truly were, who you wanted to be. There was a distance between your dreams, your aspirations, and his, which already carried a baggage of achievements and losses. The difference was not just age, but life perspectives, the experiences he had lived, the mistakes made, and the lessons learned. And you were there, full of possibilities and the purity of someone who had not yet been shaped by the weight of past choices. He knew this. He realized that it wasn't just time that separated you, but the different phases of life. This weighed heavily on him, not because he believed the difference was insurmountable, but because he saw himself at a point in his journey where choices became heavier, more serious, and you were still learning to make yours. And then he found himself in a cruel dilemma. He knew what he wanted, and he knew what you wanted, or at least what you seemed to want at that moment. But he also understood that the paths of life don't always follow the logic of what is good or fair. They flow with the circumstances, maturity, and experiences. He had been hurt before. He knew how dangerous an illusion could be, and he didn't want to be the one to hurt you, even if unintentionally. He wanted to protect you. He wanted to give you the freedom to explore what the future still held for you. At the same time, he wanted to stay by your side, support your dreams, be your refuge when things didn't go as you expected. But he couldn't shake the feeling that time was becoming his enemy. Each passing day was one less chance for you to realize that perhaps he wasn't the right person for you. Yet at the same time, something deep within him insisted that he shouldn't give up. Not now, not after all that you had shared so far, because he knew that you saw beyond his age. You recognized who he truly was, and that was what really mattered. He didn't want the age difference to be the excuse that drove you apart, to create a distance where there shouldn't be any. He wanted more, so much more. He wanted you to see in him not the reflection of time that's passed, but the truth of who he became next to you. Because by your side, he felt younger, stronger, more authentic. He felt alive in a way he hadn't experienced in a long time. Even so, the pressure wouldn't let up. He could see your future, and within that vision, doubt always crept in. Would he be able to keep up with you until then? Would the love they shared withstand the weight of time and social expectations? The age difference would never just be a number for him. It was a symbol, a marker that they were at different points in life. But at the same time, he knew that life wasn't made up of numbers but of moments. And those moments they shared were precious. They were real. The age difference should not dictate the end of their story. He struggled against this thought every day. He fought against the idea that what you were building would be destroyed simply because he had lived longer. He knew that if he wanted to continue, he would have to move forward, without more fears, without more doubts. He had to believe in what he felt. He had to trust that love, true love, shouldn't be mediated by numbers or judgments, but by the intensity of what they shared. Because the connection he felt with you transcended all of that. He could feel it in every glance, in every gesture. He knew what he wanted was to live this truth with you. But was it possible? Could he really set aside the external pressure and move forward with you, knowing that the age difference could be an obstacle to his vision of the future? Or would he ultimately be deceiving himself, creating an illusion that your love would be enough to overcome everything? This consumed him, making him vulnerable with each new thought. However, there was one thing he knew. He could no longer run away. What he felt for you could no longer be denied. He finally realized that what mattered was what you were creating together, what you were living right now, not what might or might not happen in the future. And in the end, he understood that true love is about living in the present, without the weight of the uncertainties that the future holds for us. He looked at you and knew that no matter how the whole world outside judged, that wasn't what mattered. What mattered was that you were there together, right now, and that now was all he truly needed. He took a deep breath again, closing his eyes for a moment, as if he needed to feel the intensity of that instant. He knew that the answers he sought were not in the past or in the future. They were in that very moment, in the gaze he shared with you, in the space surrounding them, where words became unnecessary. The time that passed between you, those little details he noticed, were the things that truly mattered. Life, at its core, is never about numbers or what the world expects from us. It's about living what you have right now. But there was still a question that tormented him. Was he being selfish for wanting you to stay by his side? He had lived a lot and knew that life unfolded in unpredictable ways. What he wanted, more than anything, was to be an anchor for you, to be someone who helped you find your way amid the storm that life sometimes brings. But was he ready to face the possibility that one day you might look at him with the weight of unmade choices, with the burden of a love that could have been easier, simpler, more within established norms? He felt that he could not prevent her from growing, from following her own path. And this realization was both liberating and painful, because, deep down, love is not a prison. True love does not hinder the other from flying. Instead, it wishes to be the wind that supports that flight. He wanted to be the force that gave her the freedom to be who she truly was, but he also wanted to be the safe haven to which she could always return. And the age difference, so prominent in his thoughts, began to fade. He realized that the love that existed between them could not be measured in years but in the depth of what they felt, and he finally understood that perhaps the real issue was not age, but courage. The courage to embrace something so true, something so profound, even if the whole world opposed it. And upon finally realizing this, the pressure he felt began to lessen. He knew that the road ahead would be full of challenges, but maybe, for the first time, he felt ready to face them. And the only thing left to do was to let his heart guide the way. If you've made it this far, you know that this conversation isn't over yet. What he feels in his heart is deeper than words can express, but perhaps what he's experiencing is something you've felt too. If this has touched you, the next video will resonate even more. Click here and stay with me.